Hour. Let's go ahead and kick off the chats. Welcome on into the webinar this afternoon, this morning, this evening, wherever you are around the world. We've got people on our own team all over the world. So we're coming at you from multiple times of the day. Happy to be with you for this Hephaestus webinar. My name is Tim Stromble. I am with Canna Cribs. I work with Hephaestus. If you haven't checked out the Canna Cribs series, go ahead and go check that out on YouTube. It's a great, awesome series. And we've had the pleasure of featuring Hephaestus equipment multiple times in that series, including some great features out in Montana as of earlier this year. Joining me on the webinar today is Shahar, the CEO, the head honcho at Hephaestus, and Ben Arrigue, who is one of the lead sales minds, the pre-roll mind expert who's boots on the ground and just all over the U.S. And Ben, you make it internationally as well, right?
Every now and then I do. Yeah, it depends on what's going on, but definitely traveled quite a few places in this industry. It's been a trip, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd be hard pressed to find a team that is more exposed to international developments as much as Hephaestus is. So pulse on the US market, pulse on the international market, and certainly we'll talk about some of that today as we go. Throughout the webinar, if y'all want to jump in and ask questions, feel free to drop comments. We'll try to get to them as we go. Really, we want this to be a social webinar, not just listening to us talk. So we want to hear from you, bottlenecks, things that are preventing you from expanding, or things that we want to know about as we get into this webinar. So to kind of set the stage, Shahar, first of all, welcome in from overseas. Man, gosh, what time is it over there? It's got to be like 11 o'clock at night?
No, it's 8 p.m. All good.
8 p.m.
Used to it.
Early. The workday's just starting for you over there, right?
Exactly.
That international schedule is insane. But yeah, getting to what we want to talk about today, really talking about SKU diversity in pre-roll. If you're someone out there that's joining us and you are trying to scale up your pre-roll, you're trying to launch a pre-roll line, or you're trying to get automated, really what we're going to dive into over the next half hour is all the reasons that automation really can unlock SKU. When you unlock SKU, you win shelf space. When you unlock shelf space, you get revenue stability, you get revenue increase, all those things that we want to see, right? The revenue goes up and to the right. That's what we're looking to talk about today. Maybe I'll go ahead and kick it off with Shahar. Hephaestus has done a number of things, from being on the forefront of SKU expansion with a number of brands. I mean, I'd love for you to share some of those and maybe talk about how we look at SKU diversity overall, when we're helping our clients grow their brands.
Thanks, Tim. You know what? I'm as you were speaking, I was thinking that in this kind of a young industry, every SKU becomes the standard, or some of them becomes a standard. So I feel like we've been a part of very influential development of some SKUs for our clients. I mean, COVID days, everyone started smoking dog walkers, and we were there, and now it's becoming bigger again, or the straights, the blunts. I'll take an example from Europe for a second. I was there, I think 3 or 4 years ago. I had this discussion with one of our clients, and he mentioned the fact that really the machine is kind of an extension to what they're doing by hand. So for a lot of this is just something that we're just excited of doing, and then it just becomes a standard because this industry just goes, just follows.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting about pre-rolls is, years ago it was a race to the bottom of who's going to throw the pre-roll away first, because it was trim, it was just that stuff you wanted to get rid of. But now it's so elevated. You have people running infused material. You have people running, hash holes. You have people running blunts, straights, cones, dog walkers. There's some new products that we're helping to bring to market on the Hephaestus side. That's exciting as well. When those conversations come up, Ben, how about for you? When those conversations come up with someone who's looking to diversify or looking to automate a certain SKU. How does that hit you as someone who's really seen it all on the pre-roll side? What do you think the big advantage is to bringing in an automated solution on that side?
Yeah, I guess it's all case by case, right? It's depending on what product they're currently making. It depends on their market, if it's a younger market or a more mature market. One of the things that's nice about, I guess, our exposure to the industry, not just in US/North America and Canada, but internationally, is we're seeing what's happening. We're seeing what the market trends look like. And like a lot of other industries, you can look at a few key states and see what they're doing. A lot of times those trends in those states become the norm eventually across the industry. So when we're talking, let's say one of our clients is producing one type of product right now, and then they come to us and say, hey, we're looking at doing something else. This is our idea. Well, we listen to their idea first off, and then we just give them the feedback based on what we see. And then at that point, the process is pretty simple because we've done this and seen this 100 times. Well, how many times we've seen it? We can help that client take that R&D time from days and weeks down to a few hours. So there's a lot of factors to go into, but first and foremost, it's learning about what they're doing now, what their market is, what their ideas are for the future, and then also to some degree, to a big degree, what do they want to do? What do they want to be known as? And then again, we just have that conversation back and forth, and we land on what we think next. And then at that point, we go ahead and advise them, and hopefully things work out. And generally, they do.
Yeah, one of the biggest things I want to hit on is that specific kind of topic you mentioned. A lot of the automated solutions in the space, and frankly, a lot of the semi-automated solutions in the space that people use before they get up to bigger automation, they kind of pigeonhole you into, hey, we can make this product at scale. Do you want to make this product with us using our machine? What I like about how Festus looks at it, they look at, okay, what are you making? What do you want to make? What do you want to be known for? Here's how this machine makes that product. And Shahar, you brought up a great example when we were talking about earlier. You were one of the first automated systems to approach the dog walker, right?
And the straits, and the blunts. I mean, I think with the dog walkers, the main thing was, for us, we always take it and we look at it from a technical point of view. But what the client wants is, first of all, let's run a test. Let's see if we can make 10,000, 20,000 a month. But then the cool thing about an automation, and specifically with our machine, I think, is like the expansion capability. Because when you do get this shelf space, and now you're known for it because you've ran it for 3 months, let's say, it's going to be the same shelf space, but the actual sales of it is going to increase. And you want to be able to increase from 20K to 100K with just another shift, or even just from running more material through the system. Think about it from a logistics standpoint, the amount of thought and work that's implemented in the expansion is sometimes even bigger than just testing or finding the right SKU. So I think that's where automation really shines. And the fact that we can really take you from point A to point B in no time, I think that's a crucial point for success to maintain the position that you're holding.
I want to make sure everybody drop your comments, drop questions too. If you have bottlenecks to scaling, you have pre-roll questions, can we automate this? Drop those in the chat because we want this to be as inclusive of a conversation as you want. And we certainly have a couple of questions we've grabbed from LinkedIn and through our Instagram that we'll throw in just a minute. One of the biggest things I want to get your guys' opinion on is the actual forward-facing part of this, the dispensary. Right? Because everyone thinks of how can we automate this? How can the grow produce more? And that's one side of it. But ultimately, they have to sell. And to sell, let me know if I'm leaving anything out. But to sell, you look at dispensaries, they want consistency. Can you consistently produce that product? Because their goal isn't to buy your product and sell it. Their goal is to keep the customer that's buying at the dispensary. And so you talk about bad burn, you talk about uneven packed pre-roll, you talk about being out of their favorite SKU and now they don't want to come back because they're going to find something else somewhere else. So how have you guys seen maybe the dispensary side and the evolution of SKUs on shelves impact, really what producers need to be able to do and how they need to be able to be flexible? Ben, you said it earlier on a different call that part of what Hephaestus prides itself in is not just the knowledge of knowing what markets are growing, what SKUs, what's becoming popular, but being able to be reactive and even proactive to that and guess and be ahead of trends, right? Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. And Tim, you hit on something. Yeah, dispensaries ultimately they don't care what product they're selling. I mean, they care, but like you said, it's about the customer, right? They want that customer to come back. They want that customer to have a good experience. They don't want to lose that customer. So if they find a winner, if they find products that are moving the needle and bringing those customers back, well, okay, then that now becomes the the brands they want to work with. And to your point, if they can't get that product, if it's not in stock, well, a couple of things happen. One, they're going to disappoint their customer, but two, they're going to move on to the next brand that has that stock available because they need to keep their shelves full. So that's where automation can help you out. Obviously, being able to keep up with the demand, especially when that demand spikes, maybe more than you anticipate. Being able to be agile, as Shahar mentioned earlier, and maybe it's a matter of running another shift. Well, in that other shift, you can make another 10,000 pre-rolls. So you're able to easily cover those spikes in demand if needed. But again, it's about consistency. It's about quality. It's about all those things that you mentioned. And that's where, automation in general, I mean, there's why pretty much every industry eventually goes to automation. Consistency, quality, efficiency. Those are kind of the three, buzzwords that we all use on a probably way too often basis, but use them because it's true. I mean,
it's true. Yeah, but those are the minimums. Those are the minimums your brand needs to hit in order to maintain shelf space. Because it's one thing for a brand or a dispensary to say, yeah, we'll sell these products. It's another to keep them. You got to sell through, great customer experience. You have to be in stock. You have to prove that you can maintain client for them. And what's really interesting is that's where everybody wants to be. But you look at these 4 stages and everyone is in a different stage. And you might not even know what stage you're in. You might be putting yourself in the wrong bucket. But typically when you're in that manual stage, the pain points aren't introducing new SKUs. It's how do you then how do you create a process that can replicate this at scale, right? And Hephaestus looks at that, a handful of ways, and I think they're all fairly interesting. But where do you guys see the stages break down where grows have trouble going from one stage to the next?
I think from going for manual and then you get into those bottlenecks, there's probably 3 options for you. You can either try to expand doing it manually, and then all those issues that we just mentioned is gonna come at you. You can go and co-pack with someone, or you can go and fully automate it. So, or even semi-automate. So I think it's not just those stages. It's also the way you choose. I mean, what's your first choice? You can go to try to expand with a co-packer and then go for automation. You can go directly to automation, but then you need to know that there's a few stages in the way to make it the way you want it. So that's my take on it. I think it's slightly different from manual to bottleneck to expansion than full scale.
Yeah.
And also then you can see on some of our multi-state operators, expansion and scale, there's a stage 5. Like, okay, we've expanded and now we're at full capacity, but now we need to triple it or even quadruple it. Like, and then you need X amount of machines, X amount of SOPs, shifts, on the logistic kind of things. Yeah,
Hephaestus does a really good job of scaling process, which I like. Batches and recipes and stuff. Someone in Massachusetts could create the same product in Arizona, and I really do like that consistency because of how they have built, or how you guys, have built the software. The thing I want to hit on too is that you just brought up, there's 4 stages here. We're not even showing, because literally the piece of paper is not wide enough, the hidden stages of this. right? Because it's not that simple. And what I love what you said is the co-packer part. Hephaestus, and maybe you can mention this for a second, has an extensive co-packing, I'd say network, a network of clients who have the ability to co-pack, across the world, really. So you look at going from manual to automation. People think it's this giant scale of I need to invest this capex to get into automation, when in reality, all you really need is the right conversation. And then you have that person who can come in, they can co-pack for you, and you use those labor savings to then go ahead and afford your own machine to then bring your operation in-house. I mean, it seems like a pretty straightforward plan, right, Ben?
Yeah, and you guys both mentioned something like a lot of times people don't know where they fit in these stages, and then there's stages in between the stages. So it can become a very complicated, kind of complex problem that you're trying to solve. And so again, that goes back to the conversations. That's where, people like us, or if you're considering automating your gummy processing, whatever those processes are, that's where it makes sense to talk to somebody who, this is what we do for a living. We talk and advise and work with clients all over the country, all over the world. So again, I don't want to say we've seen everything, but we've seen pretty dang near, whatever's out there. So we can help you understand where you are, because we've probably seen an operation that's in a similar stage to where you are. And then, we've seen some that have moved forward in a different way and it didn't go so well. And we've seen some do it in a different way and it went well. So again, coming back to that conversation is key to all of this. For us, I talk to a lot of people on a regular basis, a lot of people who are interested in our equipment, and some of them just aren't ready. For us, it doesn't make sense to try to sell a machine to somebody who's not ready for it. It's not going to do anybody any good. So a couple ways that we approach that is one, the co-packer. We have a lot of clients all over the country that have co-packing operations. So for an up and coming producer who's looking to make that product, well, yeah, you can buy knock boxes, and that's definitely a way to go. And there's a lot of companies that have done that successfully. Another option is to start working with a co-packer. Leave that up to somebody who does this, day in and day out. A lot of times they can produce it for lower cost than what you can produce it, bringing it in-house. And then when the time is right to bring it in-house, well, you already know what system they're using. You get the same one. Now you're basically taking it from their operation to yours, replicate that recipe, and you're not going to lose any, you're not going to change the recipe, as we call them, for whatever the product's being made. It's a pretty seamless transition. And again, you're doing it on your own terms when the time is right to invest in that automation. So again, just one example of how conversation can go.
Just to add to that, Ben, people visualize co-packers as operation that is for co-packing, but a lot of our clients, and you know that better than me, are in the stage where they know automation can help, but to justify the purchase, they're trying to get another deal or two for the second shift. And that's where we fit in. Like, that's where we can really, you try to make 30K a month, go ask Nostak Supply in Jersey. I mean, go ask some of our friends, because we know people and we can just get you in touch with them. And that's just an important point, that you don't need to be a co-packer to be co-packing. Like, right. That's the ecosystem.
Yeah. That's the ecosystem. Yeah, you're entirely right. Having that Rolodex of clients that you've proven success with, and now they can also become a resource. Because when you get into co-packing, it's not like, hey, just make this product. It's like you get that relationship started, and maybe they're producing SKUs that you could also produce, but you didn't know you could. You couldn't manually produce it, but they're producing an automated SKU that you can automate. And so those relationships are really easy. And that's what I like about working with you guys. It is very much an ecosystem of friendliness. And so if you can bring that level of sophistication to the process and simple introductions, Hephaestus isn't that company that's going to sit out here and shout out all the brands that, we're working with, for a couple reasons. One, you don't have to. We could sit here and say that the largest producers in North America run on Hephaestus, and that is really all the validation you need. But there are certainly names that could be shared. But I think the team tends to be respectful and modest, and not not necessarily sharing.
thing is, maybe I'll always come back to that, but we didn't invent nothing in cannabis, okay? There's industries with shelf space, like food or pharma or you name it, that has been doing it for years. So name dropping is not something that we're doing usually in these industries, but most definitely also the way, like the ecosystem that we're talking about is it's the same in food business. Co-packing is there, automation is there to a certain level, the niche products are there, the massive manufacturers are there. I think we will all get to a point where it's super automated, and still those smaller, medium to small scale niche manufacturers would need to find their place into the production, and that's the way it's going to go always.
One of the things I want to hit on next is what are some of the more difficult SKUs that we've been able to help people produce? Ben, you might have a good one. Shahar, you might have a good one here. But really, what I want to hit on is when you talk about SKU development and diversity, I think a lot of people are maybe under the impression that they can't do certain SKUs automated. And certainly that's true for some things. But you look at infused products, you look at different sizes, different shapes. There's so many formats you can fit into the the Aura X and the Lumen X now, the entry level machine. And we're not trying to make this let's talk about what the machine can do. But what I want to do is give everyone an example of how Hephaestus, which is a company really that was founded out of robotics and automating systems through robotics. It didn't start out, hey, let's perfect a pre-roll. It's here's a problem that pre-roll producers have. Let's use our, 30, 40, 50 years of robotics experience now and automate this one thing. But you're right. I mean, there's food automation, there's pharma automation. All these things are within your guys' wheelhouse because in essence, the product is what's being automated regardless of necessarily what it is. And you guys use your ability to automate and use robotics and produce those pieces of equipment for this specific purpose. And it applies to pre-rolls just as much as it does to food or pharma, right?
Right. Yeah, I would say, Tim, one of the, biggest challenges that we've been able to address is the first one you mentioned, infused pre-rolls, right? Infused pre-rolls have become the hottest thing in the market over the last couple of years. And we had to adapt like everybody else. It's the same process, but it's a different process to move infused material through whatever mechanism you're using to produce your pre-rolls, as opposed to just straight flour. So that was a big milestone for the company, a big hurdle to overcome. So that's one that we're really proud of. It, and infused can be 100 different things, right? It can be whatever types of concentrate. It can be wet, it could be dry, it could be this or that. So it's a big, nut to crack, so to speak. But I feel that we've done that pretty well. The other thing that we've been able to, succeed at is managing different types of tips. Like, again, a lot of the things that dispensaries are looking for is different types of products to put out there, right? They still have to be quality, they still have to be something people want, but just a straight standard pre-roll is great, but people are looking to see what else is out there. So coming up with a unique glass tip product, a ceramic tip product, a wood tip product, those are all things that bring their own unique challenges. But again, that's something that we've been able to adapt and modify the machine so they can run those various SKUs. And again, be agile, be able to do whatever the market is dictating needs to happen. So those are the handful that I get asked on a daily basis the most about is infused and different types of tips. Those are probably the two main ones. Although you could throw in blunts now. Blunts are a hot one. So, it's always changing, but fortunately we can address it.
I think a big part of it is just is not just solving the actual problem, is making sure that you're ready for expansion. So let's say if you're talking about the types of tips, so we have this test now that we're doing with one of the bigger manufacturers that they want to have glass, plastic, and ceramic tips for more or less the same sizes. Now we guide them, we work together to guide them toward the right diameters on the bottom, to right diameters on the top. So they don't need to change a lot to make this like the different SKU. So automation always comes with the logistic chain, like with the supply chain. So these are things to put in mind, and this we have a lot of experience with. So I think it's as important as just solving the specific issue.
Yeah, entirely correct. You talk about infused SKUs being, I can't remember if it's 45 or 50% of shelf space currently in dispensaries is infused. So if you're not doing infused, there goes half the shelf space opportunity. And you talk about people that really are branching out into trying more infused products. It's one of those things that you kind of have to have unless you want to be phased out. Is there a chance that someone is regular pre-rolls going away? They're not, right? But you need to be able to have infused as well, just given the market reports of, over half of pre-rolls sold now in North America are of the infused variety. If you're not doing that, then you're effectively closing off the faucet to a revenue source that otherwise could be, super valuable. You talk about the ceramic tips. You talk about, I think, Sean, someone was talking about the 120 problem. That is a new paper size that was brought to the team, and now the team's solving.
Yeah, it's not a new paper size, but it's becoming stickier right now. Not the material, just the use of it. So the amount of sticks that is being produced for the larger cones right now is going up. So we encounter that a lot.
Yeah. Ben, what can you tell me about, this slide's interesting. It talks about just pure labor reduction in cost per pre-roll. How have you seen, I guess, if someone's in a manual process or just in the beginning of looking at automation or wanting to scale, how do you see the price per unit be impacted when we start having these automation discussions?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. The obvious one that people always point to with automation is labor, reducing the labor cost, right? And kind of a side note to that is, we get pushback. You're killing jobs. People are losing their, well, that's not the goal of us bringing a machine in there. It's more to bring on more efficiency and everything else to help the business succeed, so that there is a place for people to come to work. But what we find is a lot of times those people that were doing the manual twisting or whatever, running knock boxes, now they're able to pivot to something that allows them to be a little more creative and allows them to use their mind more and makes them a more happy person, and generally brings a bigger ROI to the company. So that's kind of the big thing is labor. What a lot of people don't realize is the inefficiencies that come with doing things by hand and the loss factor. And sometimes that's very difficult for somebody to measure how much, what percentage of material is actually waste or loss. And so, again, that's a big one for us, especially if you're using infused material. Well, now that material is infused with whatever concentrate that's making that, ground mixture more valuable, more expensive. So that's a big one for us as well, is improving the efficiency, not just in producing more pre-rolls, but also with how the material is utilized inside the joints.
Yeah. There was this guy I was talking to in the space years and years ago, and we were talking about post-harvest automation. And he said one of the things that's always stuck to me, and that is that the cannabis plant needs eyes on it. When you have big rooms, you need eyes on your plants. It helps you catch things. And so the way that he looked at automation within his company is he's taking those people that, like you're saying, they're twisting tops, or they're doing this thing that should not be a job because it's so strenuous, tedious, waste of your life. Instead, you redeploy that person, right? We're all sitting here running a company. You've got 100% of your labor force. Would you rather spend percentages of your labor force twisting a top, or in your room with your plants, making sure that they're exactly where they're supposed to be, making sure, instead of having 2 people change over an entire room, now you have 4. That room gets changed over twice as fast. You're able to produce faster. So when we look at this slide, labor reduction is one of 6 total things that really encompass an ROI. Your throughput increase, the shelf space, retaining the shelf space, gaining clients, lowering your cost per unit. Not on here is redistribution of labor to more valuable places in your grow. You will be more efficient if you have more labor where it matters, and that's on the plants, and that's where impact can really happen. And so that's a really interesting point to bring up, just because framing the actual ROI past, what is this dropping my pre-roll manufacturing cost down to? That's just one small way to think about it.
Tim, one thing to add to that, this has been a pretty interesting thing that I've noticed over the last couple of years, but when you walk into a facility, within 5 minutes if the people that are happy or not, the employees, if they're being treated right, if they're, take pride in where they are, pretty dang quick if these people are happy. And generally, I'm not saying this is the case all the time, but generally the companies where we see that, or where I see it at least, are the companies that are more forward thinking, the companies that are taking advantage of technology and automation and whatever other advancements in the industry that are out there. They're the ones that are utilizing these things. And yeah, they don't necessarily need as many people, but the people they have there generally seem more happy with with their position, with their roles, and coming to work that day. So that's it's cool to see, because we're seeing more of that. And obviously we want everybody to be happy when they come to work, and just some places you're not. But again, generally the ones that are more forward thinking, that are taking advantage of these advancements, I think there's a correlation to their employees thriving in that environment.
Guys, there's the other side of ROI as well. I mean, it's not just the reduction on the labor. It's also what kind of expansion I can achieve, how many deals I can close with now me having the power of expanding to 2x or 3x like that. And so if you're now producing 50,000 pre-rolls a month, then your ROI is X, but in months. But if you're now producing 100, 150, then you're gonna return your investment much faster. And that's something that can only be done with with versatile automation. That's the only way to do. You're reacting to the market. That's huge.
Yeah.
And one of the containers I think people get themselves trapped in is that it's scary to think about what automation could mean, because right now you're in this bubble of producing, and getting out of that bubble and entering into this area where you're not necessarily sure, is there going to be demand? Are we going to be able to do this? Are we going to be able to do that? Am I really going to make this giant CapEx decision? That's not the case. 10 years ago, that might have been the case. Big cash CapEx, even 5 years ago, huge CapEx spent to get, a machine in house. And then you figure out, is this going to work for me? How am I going to make this business work? The big part of the ecosystem to highlight, I think, is the assistance to getting to your SKUs that you want. The operational investment is very fluid now. Hephaestus has financing opportunities. They have co-packing opportunities, right? All these things are designed to make automation more approachable into those business sizes that maybe are scared or don't have that capital, or just need that helping hand. There's a lot of people in cannabis who aren't necessarily from cannabis, and that's where teams like this can be helpful. And there's also a lot of lifelong cannabis people that are simply committed to the manual side because they don't think automation can replicate the magic they've captured in this product. I'm sure that's happened to you, Ben, in these conversations of, well, there's no way you could automate this, or there's no way we can do this with your machine. And you're like, we're actually doing it just down the street. So
yeah,
and we're doing it for a quarter of the price that you are.
Yeah, there's a couple of things you hit on there, Tim, that, it is true that automation in general is now more accessible than ever, with different, and this isn't just unique to our company, but financing anything in the cannabis space has always been a challenge, obviously, with it not being, federally legal. But now there are companies out there that are able to give fairly competitive options for financing, whether that's a loan, whether that's a lease to own. So, depending on your situation, do you want to take the CapEx, or do you want it to be an OpEx? There's advantages to both depending on where your situation is. So that's something that's made automation more accessible. The other thing is, a lot of companies that have come from other industries and are, now producing whatever type of automated equipment in the space, they realize, just like we did, that, hey, we have our big daddy machine that can crank out a gazillion units, but there is a space for that smaller version, that scaled down version that is more of a, call it an entry level or mid level. And you're seeing more and more companies taking what they've already created that works well and now scaling that down. So it does make it more accessible to, operations of all size. So that's a nice trend to have seen over the last few years in the industry.
And what I like about the Hephaestus ecosystem is that the downstream automation is very well attended to. I'll just say that. There are other solutions in the space that are very pre-roll centric. The pre-roll comes out of a machine and it's this beautiful pre-roll. Nothing against it, it looks great, but now what do you do with it? Now I've got 20,000 of it. Do I have 20, one person manually weighing, tubing, labeling, packaging? So my throughput has been fixed only to create bottlenecks that come immediately after that fix of throughput. And so when you look at the entire ecosystem, and Shahar, I think this is one I really want to pick your brain on, but when you look at that whole ecosystem, it's just that, right? It has to be an ecosystem of equipment that all speaks and works with each other. It can't just be, one piece of a 5-part process.
It needs to get to the shelf. That's the only thing. And it can't get to the shelf of the pre-roll machine. Whether you wait or not, it needs to be attended because you're going to need to package it. And you want to make sure that it's coming on the quality that you want. So 100%, it's an ecosystem. We're coming, again, that's our bread and butter. Packaging solutions. So we can either tailor-made or take something that we've done for someone else and just make it, take that solution and just help you with that. I'm talking in automation, but those are the things that are even easier for us. I think I've said it before. Making a joint probably is one of the hardest thing to do in automation. Like that's hard. Putting it in a tube, it's hard. It needs to be fast, but it's doable.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen the auto tube machine run, it is really impressive to watch. It had been too long since I'd even seen it, and I saw the video the other day, and I was like, man, this is dope automation. Like this is cool. And I know there's a company called Dope Automation out there, and those guys are great. They do good work. But yeah, no, it's amazing. If you guys want to head over to hephaestustech.com, it's hephaestus-tech.com. I think that's in the next slide. You can check out the ROI calculator that will show you an example if you're financing, show you an example if you're doing cash. You can choose between 2 different types of pre-rolls, pre-roll machines. I don't want to get out of here before, we only have a couple minutes left, but I don't want to get out of here before we talk about the LumenX. We got to drop this thing, Shahar, because it was launched this last month by Hephaestus. Aura X is the beast. It's the machine. It's the one that the large producers, the largest in North America and a lot of the largest in the world are using. But Hephaestus didn't stop there because you noticed something about the market and then you created this solution to then address that of the market. What did you notice and what is the LumenX designed to do?
I think if we go back to one of the first slides, you don't need to, but I'm just saying, if you're in that stage between going from manual to any kind of expansion, you're not gonna get, unless you are connected to another company that distributes, and you're gonna need X amount, you're gonna start with a 10, 30, 40,000 joints a month. We saw that in the gap between that to going to above 80 or 70K, there is a need for automation. We're automation people. We believe this is the right way to go. I think our clients also understands by now all those advantages that we just discussed over the last 30 minutes. But the LumenX is there for that. It's the same quality, the same capability. You get the same versatility. It's going to be the same joint again and again. It's going to be the same blend again and again. And just the output is around 1/3 of what the Aura X is doing. By the way, the LumenX is also a beast. Like, it is a simple machine that likes to run. It's not like it's built from the same materials of the Aura X, but I think in this gap between 0 to 70, 0 to 80, that's where the Luminix fits. I'm talking monthly output. And also important to say that we came up with some program to keep you in the family. So if you grow with us, the opportunity of just going from the Luminix that you can see here to an OX and then move to fully automate the output. It's we keep you in the family. That's a nice video.
Yeah, no, I mean,
yeah. But for those of you who knows us, like it's the same machine practically, which made it a little smaller and more affordable. You got the same capability of cutting from, let's say, a 109 to anywhere down. You get the same filling and packaging capabilities. The folding is the same. And when you need to expand to an OX, you'll expand to the OX. And when you need to expand to two OXs or to an autotube or to whatever, we got your back. No, we're really excited about it. And we can see the market reacting. That's the coolest thing. I think Beck even can tell you more that this is, we hope, we believe that's going to be a hit for us.
Yeah, and certainly the early feedback has all been very solid, which is nice. It seems like people are really excited about the ability to get into something that's a little less, I don't want to say less of a commitment, right? Because you're getting into automation. You're committed. You're going into automation. Let's go. But making that price point. So now you've added a finance layer. You've added a co-pack, which I think is something that a lot of people will be interested in as they scale. And then you've added a smaller machine that makes it more affordable. So really just removing barriers to create more SKU diversity for people who are looking to produce. So, that's probably my biggest takeaway is that it's an ecosystem that's designed to work for you, not the other way around. You don't have to fit into this ecosystem to then go and afford automation that's going to expand your company. It's a group that will kind of meet you where you're at. I really like that part of it. That
and the fact that the machine doesn't lay in the corner and collecting dust. They're working for you. And you can utilize it the way you want and grow your business with it. And sometimes when it's low waves, it's still going to do its thing. And you'll be waiting for the next big order, which will bump you again. You don't need to have a big team for it. No, we're excited about the Luminix. I think the Luminix is gonna be. We're installing one this week. Yeah, we're installing one this week, and no, it's interesting what's going on.
Yeah, I'd say so. We covered the questions that I had in advance. I don't see any fresh questions in there, so that's great. It seems like we're hitting on everything that people kind of came and wanted to know. I guess what's the kind of the biggest takeaway for you guys in terms of if you were running a pre-roll brand, really regardless of size, but if you're looking at how do I make the biggest impact at the dispensary level and winning new clients, winning new dispensary business, I guess what's your biggest takeaway on how this all plays into that? Ben, maybe I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think, this probably could go for a lot of different scenarios and situations, but to me, it's align yourself with the right people, the right companies, the right vendor partners, and just do things the right way. As cliche as that sounds, kind of boils down to that. This industry, there's a lot of really good people in it, and there's some unsavory people, and it becomes pretty quick where you fall on that, which side of the line. And ultimately, the good people doing things the right way are the ones that are going to succeed and win, and that's what we're seeing right now. So, again, do your homework, do your research, align with people, trust your gut in a lot of situations, and then take advantage of the resources that are out there. Talk to the specialists in whatever part of the process that you're focusing on at that point. Talk to them, take their input, and then just make educated decisions on how to move forward. That'd be my biggest takeaway.
Mine is going to be shorter. Make sure it doesn't clog. That's the main thing. If it's a good pre-roll, it's gonna sell. And if you can make sure it's up there on the shelf you get. So whatever you choose, just need to make sure that the quality is there.
Yeah. How about this question? This is a curveball to throw in. We didn't talk about this beforehand, but what blind spots do you see when you first talk to, and Ben, being more boots on the ground, this might be for you, but what blind spots are you seeing that people don't realize? Either they're losing money or they're not as buttoned up as maybe they thought. What are some of the things that people really don't pay attention to that they should be?
The one that I see quite often is somebody makes some crazy freaking product by hand, and it's, you know, it's got 9,000 different processes to the layer, and it's bitching and it's awesome, and then they start selling them, and then they realize they can't make more than 10 in a day, and then like, oh, we have this great product, it's so cool, how do we scale it up? Well, you can't. So that's one thing. Like, yeah, don't overthink it. Don't, like, for the most part, if it doesn't exist, it probably means that it doesn't need to exist. So yeah, but when we see something that has, you know, 14 different types of concentrate, it's coated in unicorn dust and can only be made when, you know, there's a full moon and a high tide. It's like, all right, well, have fun trying to scale that up if it goes well. So that's, I see that more times than I would like to, but it's a very common one.
So I'm guessing, what's the best first step? Someone wants to get in touch in chat. Is it a production audit? Is it jumping into the ROI calculator? I feel like reaching out and talking to the team is the best first step, because they'll get true feedback on where you're at and what it's going to take for you to get where you want to go, right?
And it doesn't cost money, and we always try to be nice. So yeah, we've done this a few times, and we're very open, and our feedback doesn't cost money for it. That's the way we do business. That's the way we are, straightforward. And I do also understand we do also understand like what it means for someone to adopt automation or to start a new SKU or even getting into pre-rolls. I mean, if you're only doing concentrates and you want to buy biomass outside, grind it, introduce it with your concentrate, and then try to make pre-rolls out of it, which is paper, and you've done only paper. I mean, it's a lot. So that's where we might tell you, listen, talk to us in a bit, or let us introduce you to someone and come back to us. I mean, that's the kind of feedback you're going to get from us, the real feedback, and not trying to oversell nothing.
Yeah, no, I can vouch for that. The shoot you straight approach is definitely what you get. What you see is what you get, and there's really no sugarcoating it, because why would you? It's business. You're looking at, here's your problem, here's the solution. Is it the only solution? Maybe there's 3 solutions that are in that, you know, formula to choose from, and you just never know. But yeah, I think if anyone's out there and they're curious about where you truly are in your production, you want the truth, you want to really understand maybe some levers that either you haven't pulled on, or really that they're underperforming, maybe they're sinking your ship and you don't really realize it, just hit the Hephaestus website. You'll talk to Ben, you'll talk to Shahar, Ophir, Kirk. I mean, just pre-roll experts who have been doing this a long time all over the world, who can give you that real feedback of, you know, this is going to work in your market. This might not. We're seeing this trend shift away. You know, it's like having a piece of equipment is one thing, but then having context to that equipment by people who are experts in what they do is kind of like adding on, you know, fuel to that conversational fire, right? Ben's not someone that was hired off of LinkedIn 6 months ago and he's learning the pre-roll space. I don't even know how long you've been around pre-roll automation, Ben, but you're probably in double digits, I'd say, easily.
Yeah. Well, I guess, fortunately, unfortunately, yes, a long time. I've been in this space. Hard like remind me of that all the time, by the way. So yes.
The stories you could tell.
Yeah.
Oh man, good times. Well, yeah, that's going to do it for us. I mean, if you guys want to learn more about the Luminex, which is an amazing machine to check out, a cool part about the Hephaestus ecosystem is there's a number of video demos, and then there's clients all over North America and the world. So there's chances to see machines in person. There's chances to see machines, through a guided video tour. There's a bunch of different ways to kind of skin the cat, as they say. And really, it just starts with one simple thing, and that's shooting an email that says, hey, I'm looking to do this in pre-rolls. Let's talk. And typically it all grows from there, and you get really that white glove service throughout the entire process, which is nice. So guys, I think we hit on everything. I don't think we're leaving anything on the table. If we didn't answer a question that you had, shoot us an email, and we'll certainly get back to you as fast as we can, and get you that information. But Shahar, Ben, thanks so much, man. This has been awesome. I think we scraped the iceberg of kind of the knowledge that I think we could put into something like this. But ultimately, no one wants to listen to us talk for 10 hours, even though we could. But appreciate it, everyone. We'll have another webinar coming up for Q3. Not entirely sure. I think we're looking at the full ecosystem. We'll have some product knowledge and some product dropped information in that one too, leading up to MJ Biz, which is of course, the big shebang, the 4th of July fireworks show to the end of the year in the cannabis space. So we'll be there for that. You'll get emails letting you know that's coming up. So keep an eye on the LinkedIn. Make sure you're subscribed on LinkedIn or follow the page. And then, we will catch you next time. Thanks, Shahar. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Tim.
guys.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye.